Liam woke up to the harsh smell of damp fabric and the faint hum of traffic outside. The gray morning light barely made its way through the cracked windshield of his old silver hatchback. His body ached, stiff from sleeping on the uneven back seat, his hoodie soaked from condensation. For a moment, he forgot where he was. Then reality hit the car was home now. Not by choice, but by necessity. He rubbed his face, trying to shake the cold that had settled into his bones. A few months ago, he would never have imagined this. College had started with hope and excitement. But life had other plans. He unbuckled the seatbelt, reached into the small cooler he kept in the corner, and pulled out a lukewarm energy drink. He drank it slowly, savoring the small burst of warmth, though it barely touched the chill in his body. He glanced at the stack of notebooks and textbooks piled beside him. The papers crumpled from months of being shifted from one corner to another. He had worked so hard to get here. Scholarships weren't enough, loans were piling up, and his own family, his father, stepmother, and half-siblings had little interest in helping him. His father's new life didn't have room for him, and Liam had learned not to ask. Pride and fear of being a burden kept him silent. By 6 in the morning, Liam was on his feet, shivering in his thin hoodie. His first job awaited a cafe just 10 minutes from campus. He worked there for early morning shifts, serving coffee to sleepy students and professionals. Each good morning he offered was accompanied by a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. His hands moved quickly, but his mind wandered. Sometimes he imagined telling someone the truth, someone who would understand. But the thought of the conversation, the pity in their eyes, terrified him. So he kept quiet. Amelia Rowan entered the cafe at exactly 6:30, as usual. She had messy brown hair tucked into a loose bun and paint stains on her sleeves. Liam had noticed her before, but today her smile lingered longer than usual. She carried a canvas bag slung over her shoulder, and her bright eyes scanned the cafe until they landed on him. She ordered her usual latte triple shot, extra foam almond milk, and lingered at the counter, as if waiting for something. "You look tired," she said softly. Surprising him, Liam froze for a moment. He wasn't used to anyone noticing. "Something like that," he murmured, forcing a smile. She didn't push further, just nodded. But her gaze lingered, curious and concerned, and it left a strange warmth in his chest. He looked away quickly, focused on the espresso machine, pretending he hadn't felt it. The day at the cafe dragged, and Liam moved like a ghost, serving customers, refilling napkins, wiping tables. Each smile he gave felt rehearsed, each laugh forced. After closing, he changed into the clothes he kept in a small backpack and walked briskly to his second job, a cleaning shift at a downtown hotel. The janitorial cart was heavy and his legs ached, but he kept moving. He had to. Rent wasn't an option, and neither was asking his father for help. The thought of seeing him, the smug look of his stepmother and step-siblings, made him grit his teeth. He had chosen this path. Painful, lonely, exhausting, but his own. By the time he finished the night shift, the streets were nearly empty. He trudged back to his car, dragging his feet across wet pavement. Rain had fallen lightly, and puddles reflected the dim streetlights. He pulled the keys from his pocket and unlocked the car, trying not to think about how cold and lonely the seat would be. But tonight was worse. Campus security had been extra vigilant, and the parking spot he usually used had been marked with a warning. He had no choice but to crouch behind the vehicle, waiting for a patrol to pass. A flashlight beam swept the lot, and his heart thumped in his chest. Liam pressed himself against the back bumper, holding his breath. The guard's voice carried faintly across the empty parking lot. "Everything looks fine here." Relief washed over him, but it was fleeting. The car was still his home, and each night he reminded himself that this wasn't permanent. It had to end eventually. And then he heard a voice, soft and trembling, behind him. "Liam, what are you doing out here?" He froze, heart pounding, and slowly turned. It was Amelia. Rain had soaked her jacket, and her hair stuck to her forehead. Her eyes widened when she saw him crouched behind the car, shivering. She stepped closer, the umbrella slipping from her hand as if she had forgotten it existed. "You're living here?" she asked quietly. Liam's throat tightened. He wanted to disappear. His cheeks burned with shame. He tried to respond, but the words caught in his throat. Finally, he whispered, "Please, don't tell anyone." Her gaze softened, but worry lingered. "You can't keep doing this to yourself, Liam. You're working yourself to death." "I don't have a choice," he said quietly. The words tasted bitter. "College is expensive. I can't ask my family for help. I can't." His voice broke. Amelia took a hesitant step closer. "You're not alone. You don't have to be." Her words were a bomb and a knife at the same time. A bomb because someone finally saw him, really saw him. A knife because the truth that he had no one was undeniable. Before he could answer, his phone buzzed violently in his pocket. Liam's hands trembled as he pulled it out. A name flashed on the screen that made his stomach plummet. "Grandpa Frederick." The message was short, sharp, and chilling. "We need to talk. Now." Liam's fingers shook. How did he know? His grandfather lived only 30 minutes away, but they hadn't spoken in 2 years. Their last argument was still fresh in Liam's mind, the bitter words, the silence afterward. Frederick had been stern, demanding, and unyielding. He was the kind of man who expected obedience, respect, and success. And Liam had fallen short, or so Frederick had said. Amelia watched him, sensing the panic in his face. "Everything okay?" Liam shook his head slowly, his eyes fixed on the phone. I have to go. My grandfather. He wants to see me." She hesitated, her eyes filled with concern. "Do you want me to come?" Liam considered it. He wanted comfort, someone who understood, but he also wanted to face this alone. "No, it's family," he said simply. Amelia nodded, biting her lip. "Be careful," she whispered, stepping back into the rain. The drive to Frederick's house was silent. Liam's hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white. The rain-slick streets reflected his nervousness. His mind raced through the conversation that might await him. Would Frederick be angry? Disappointed? Proud that Liam had survived on his own? When he arrived at the sprawling estate, the grandeur of the place made him feel small. Frederick's house was everything. Liam was not massive. Perfect. Controlled. He knocked, heart hammering. The door swung open, and there he was, tall. Silver-haired, his posture rigid, but his eyes holding something more complex than Liam expected. Disappointment. Worry, and maybe even a hint of guilt. "Liam," Frederick said. His voice calm but weighted with unspoken anger. "Come in." The living room was immaculate, a stark contrast to the chaos of Liam's car. The silence between them was heavy, each second stretching longer than Liam wanted. Frederick's eyes didn't look at Liam as one would at a child. They looked as though he were assessing a man he had lost touch with. "How long? How long have you been living in your car?" Frederick asked finally. Liam swallowed hard. "A few months." Frederick closed his eyes, pressing a hand to his forehead as if the weight of the answer was too much. "Why didn't you come to me?" "Because last time we spoke, you told me to stand on my own. You said I had to be strong if I wanted to be taken seriously." "I took it literally," Liam said, voice low. "I didn't want to be a burden." Frederick's jaw tightened, his hands clenching at his sides. "I never meant for you to destroy yourself." "I thought you did," Liam said quietly. "That's why I stayed away." Frederick stared at him, and for a moment, Liam saw something human flicker across his grandfather's face, a vulnerability he hadn't seen before. It scared him. It was confusing. Frederick had always been the immovable pillar of their family, the one person who seemed untouchable. The front door opened abruptly, and voices filled the room. Liam's father, Mark, appeared, his face red with irritation. Beside him, Clarissa, his stepmother, looked both curious and judgmental. Their presence made Liam shrink into himself. "Dad," Mark said sharply, "what is this? Why did you call us here?" "I have meetings, important ones." Frederick's voice turned icy. "Your son is homeless. He's been living in his car. And none of you noticed." Mark blinked, flustered. Clarissa frowned, tilting her head. "Well, he's in college. Students sometimes live in cars. It builds character. Character. Frederick roared, slamming his palm on the desk. My grandson is starving and working 2 jobs to survive. And you ignored it? Mark stammered. We could have helped him, no? Liam said quietly, but with firmness. You gave my room to your stepchildren. I had nowhere else to go. The room fell into tense silence. Frederick stood, towering over them. Pack your things, he said to Liam. You're coming with me. Liam shook his head, fear and pride wrestling inside him. I don't want to be a burden. You're not a burden, Frederick said, softer this time, almost pleading. Your family. For the first time in months, the word family didn't feel like a cage. It felt like a lifeline. Later that evening, Liam met Amelia near the art building. Her eyes lit up when she saw him. Relief washed over her face, mingled with worry. I thought something happened, she said softly. You didn't answer my texts. I'm okay, he said, voice low. It's been a long day. She stepped closer, brushing a W. The morning sunlight felt sharper than usual as Liam sat in the leather chair of his grandfather's study. The room was vast, perfectly polished, and smelled faintly of old books and expensive cologne. Every piece of furniture looked like it belonged in a museum rather than a lived-in home. Liam felt out of place, small and fragile in the grandeur that surrounded him. He had never liked wealth, not the flashy kind. It felt suffocating, cold, and somehow dishonest. And yet, here he was, sitting in a room full of wealth. Facing the very man he had avoided for years, Frederick Hale, tall and imposing, watched him with piercing gray eyes. The kind of eyes that didn't just see you, they measured you. Weighed your soul, calculated everything about you in a single glance. Liam swallowed hard, shifting uncomfortably. The silence stretched like a heavy curtain between them. It was familiar in a way. Silence had always been their default. Ever since Liam's parents had divorced and Frederick had retreated into his work. So Frederick began, voice calm but heavy. How long have you been living in your car? Liam's throat tightened. He had rehearsed the answer in his head, but now it sounded fragile, like a whisper against the cavernous walls. A few months, he said finally. The words feeling like a confession. Frederick leaned back in his chair, closing his eyes for a moment. Liam thought he saw pain flicker across his grandfather's face, quickly masked by the sternness that always came so naturally to him. Why didn't you come to me? Frederick asked. I didn't think you would care, Liam said softly. Last time we spoke, you told me to stand on my own. You said I had to prove myself, that I had to be strong. I thought if I came to you, I'd just be weak. Frederick's jaw tightened. I never meant for you to destroy yourself. That was never my intention. I pushed you to be strong, yes, but not to the point of hurting yourself. I thought you knew better. I thought I could handle it, Liam admitted. I thought I could survive without anyone's help. But surviving is different from living. And I wasn't living. I was barely existing. Frederick's eyes softened, a rare vulnerability showing through his usual stoic demeanor. Liam was startled by the shift. He had always imagined his grandfather as unbreakable, unfeeling in a way that was almost intimidating. But now, looking at him closely, he saw worry, sorrow, and a deep, unspoken regret. Before either of them could speak again, voices rose in the hallway. Liam's father, Mark, appeared, looking irritable and impatient, with Clarissa, his stepmother, following behind. They didn't look concerned. They looked annoyed. Their presence made Liam's stomach knot. Dad, Mark said sharply, why did you call us here? I have work to do. Important meetings. Frederick's voice turned cold. Your son is homeless. He's been living in his car, and none of you noticed. Mark blinked, taken aback. Clarissa's lips pressed into a thin line. Well, he's in college. Many students live in cars. Builds character, she said dismissively. Frederick slammed his hand on the desk, making Liam flinch. Character? He roared. Your son is starving, working 2 jobs, and risking his health just to survive. And you sit there pretending it's normal? Mark opened his mouth, but the words caught in his throat. Clarice's face twisted into irritation. We could have helped him, Mark said finally. No, Liam said quietly but firmly. You gave my room to your stepchildren. I had nowhere else to go. I tried not to be a burden, but you made that choice for me. The room fell silent. Frederick's eyes narrowed at Mark and Clarissa, a storm brewing behind them. Pack your things, Frederick said to Liam. You're coming with me. Fear and pride warred inside Liam. I don't want to be a burden, he said. Shaking his head. You are not a burden, Frederick said, softer this time, almost gently. You are family, and family does not let its own suffer alone. For the first time in months, the word family felt like a lifeline rather than a chain. Liam swallowed, a strange warmth creeping into his chest. He felt a weight lift, if only slightly. That evening, Liam wandered near the art building, unsure of what to do with himself. His phone buzzed constantly with messages from friends, professors, and work, but none of them seemed important anymore. Amelia appeared as if she had been waiting for him, her eyes scanning the courtyard until they found his. Relief flooded her face. Liam, she breathed. I was worried. You didn't answer my texts. I'm okay, he said softly. It's been a long day. She stepped closer, brushing a wet strand of hair from her face. You don't have to face this alone. I want to help you. Her words were like a gentle tide, pushing away the loneliness Liam had carried for months. He hesitated, unsure if he deserved someone like her. But the ache of isolation had been so heavy that her offer felt like sunlight. Maybe. I want you to, he whispered. Amelia's hand brushed his briefly, a spark igniting in the touch. Liam's heart raced, a confusing mixture of hope and fear. He had barely let anyone in for months. Could he trust her? Would letting her close mean more pain? Or could it mean something real? Frederick's voice interrupted the fragile moment. He had been standing across the courtyard, watching silently. Liam, he called, we need to talk alone. Amelia stepped back, cheeks pink with embarrassment. Liam felt his stomach twist. His grandfather rarely repeated himself. When Frederick said something with that tone, it was serious. Liam followed him to a quiet corner, the campus lights casting long shadows across the wet pavement. The air smelled of rain and earth, grounding him as his heart raced. Frederick stopped and looked at him directly. You like her, Frederick said bluntly. Liam's face burned. Grandpa, I'm old, not blind, Frederick interrupted, his voice steady. She looks at you like you matter, and she's the kind of person you shouldn't let slip away. Liam looked at the ground, heart pounding. I don't want to drag her into my problems, he admitted. I'm a mess. Frederick shook his head slowly. You think caring for someone is a burden? Because if you do, then you've missed the lesson life has been trying to teach you. Liam stayed silent. The words struck deeper than anything he had heard in years. Frederick, always stoic, always demanding, was saying something he never thought he would, that it was okay to let someone in, that vulnerability wasn't weakness. The thought of Amelia filled his chest, warmth mingling with fear. She had already seen parts of him. He kept hidden the tired eyes, the worn hands, the guarded smile. And yet she had offered her heart anyway. Maybe she saw more than just the struggle. Maybe she saw the person he was trying to be. Frederick's voice softened, almost a whisper. I failed you. Your father failed you. That ends today. He handed Liam an envelope, its weight significant, even through the paper. This is a full scholarship, Frederick said. Not charity, family. You'll finish school without working yourself to death. You'll live in the guest house. You'll eat meals that don't come in paper bags. You'll sleep in a bed, not a car. Liam's throat tightened. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Frederick said firmly. You deserve this. You've earned it. Before Liam could respond, footsteps approached. Amelia's voice trembled as she said, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to return his jacket. Liam's chest tightened. You didn't have to, Frederick smiled faintly. Stay, this concerns you too. Amelia's eyes widened. Confusion mingled with curiosity. Me, you're young, Frederick said. And you're allowed to have something good in your life. Someone good. Liam has worked hard, endured more than most. He deserves happiness, companionship, and someone who cares. Liam's heartbeat stumbled. He looked at Amelia, unsure if he could trust the sudden vulnerability between them. Yet the warmth in her eyes, the gentleness in her presence, made him ache with longing. Grandpa, Liam whispered, voice tight with emotion. Before he could continue, Mark, his father, stormed onto the courtyard, face red and full of anger. So that's it, he shouted. You're giving him everything. After he walked out of our house, after he refused to fit in with our family? Frederick's voice went cold, slicing through the night. Your family left him behind. I won't. Mark scoffed, turning on his heel. Fine. Choose him over me. Gladly, Frederick said calmly, the authority in his tone undeniable. Liam stared, stunned. His grandfather had never defended him like this, not against his own son. The realization hit him he was finally seen, finally valued. Silence settled over the courtyard. Amelia stepped forward, hesitant but unwavering. Liam, she whispered, you don't have to push people away anymore. Something inside Liam cracked open. The walls he had built around himself, the pride and fear, began to crumble. Are you sure? He asked softly. I'm a mess. She smiled, eyes shimmering. Then I guess we're both messes. But maybe we can figure it out together. He exhaled shakily, letting the tension seep out of him. For the first time in months, he didn't feel alone. Frederick watched them, eyes softening with hope. Come home, Liam, he said quietly. Both of you, if you want. Amelia's eyes widened, and Liam felt a lump form in his throat. He looked at her, uncertain, yet filled with longing. The night air smelled of rain and damp earth as Liam walked beside Amelia toward his grandfather's car. Street lights cast soft halos across the wet pavement, reflecting in the puddles like tiny worlds of their own. His chest ached in a way he hadn't felt in months, a mixture of relief, fear, and something tender he couldn't name. Frederick had given him hope, a lifeline he hadn't dared imagine. And Amelia had been there, silently steady, offering warmth when he had only known cold. Frederick trailed a few steps behind, his tall frame imposing even in the dim light. He didn't say anything at first, letting Liam and Amelia walk side by side, their hands brushing occasionally, careful, hesitant, yet electric in their contact. Liam could feel her pulse through the soft squeeze of her fingers. For a moment, he allowed himself to simply exist in this quiet, ordinary moment. He didn't have to survive or pretend. He could just be. Finally, Frederick spoke. His voice was calm, but it carried the weight of experience, authority, and care. You like her, he said bluntly. Liam's head snapped up. Grandpa, I'm old, not blind, Frederick interrupted. She looks at you the way someone should look at the person they care about. And if you're honest with yourself, you feel the same. Liam's stomach twisted. He wasn't sure how to respond. He had spent months hiding everything, his struggles, his loneliness, even his feelings for Amelia. And now here he was being confronted by the one person in his life who always demanded truth above all else. I don't want to drag her into my problems, Liam admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. I'm a mess, Grandpa. My life is... It's not something anyone should touch. I'm not whole yet. Frederick stopped walking, turning to face him. And you think caring for someone is a burden? He asked quietly, yet his eyes were sharp. Liam, life is trying to teach you something. You survived months alone, endured more than most adults would, and yet you think love, companionship, or help is weakness. Liam opened his mouth but had no answer. Frederick's words struck him harder than any lecture he had ever endured. He had spent so long thinking he didn't deserve happiness, that he had to earn everything on his own. But now, hearing his grandfather, he began to understand that strength didn't mean carrying the world alone. Strength also meant letting someone in. Amelia reached for his hand, hesitating, uncertain if he would pull away. But when their fingers intertwined, the warmth was immediate and grounding. Liam's heart raced as he felt the spark of connection, the quiet assurance that he wasn't alone anymore. She didn't ask him to be perfect. She didn't judge him. She just was there. "You're letting her in," Frederick said softly, almost a statement rather than a question. "And that's good. You've been through hell, Liam. You deserve someone who sees you for who you aren't at the mess. Not the struggle, not the pain, but the person you're trying to become." Liam's throat tightened. He hadn't realized how desperately he wanted those words, not from Amelia, not from anyone until now. He swallowed and met Amelia's eyes. I think I do," he whispered. "I think I want that. I want someone who stays even when it's hard." Amelia smiled, a little shy, a little nervous. "Then stay with me too," she said softly. "We can figure it out together. No pressure, no pretending." Liam exhaled shakily, a weight lifting from his shoulders. For the first time in months, maybe years, he allowed himself to imagine something more than survival, something like hope. Frederick cleared his throat. "Liam," he said, voice firm again, "come home. Both of you, if you want. The guest house is ready. You'll have a room, food, and space to breathe. You've earned it more than you know. And you needn't fear being a burden here. Family does not let its own suffer in silence." Amelia squeezed Liam's hand again, giving him a reassuring nod. Liam felt a surge of gratitude, a mixture of relief and tentative joy. "Grandpa, thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything," Frederick replied, voice softer now. "Just accept it. Accept that you are seen. Accept that you deserve support, and accept that love isn't a weakness." The words felt revolutionary. Liam had spent so long believing he was alone, believing that he had to fight and suffer in silence to prove his worth. And now, in the span of a few minutes, the walls he had built around himself began to crumble. He let out a long, shaky breath and finally allowed himself to feel the truth. He was not alone. He was cared for. Just as they reached the car, a voice rang out sharply. Mark, Liam's father, stormed into the courtyard, his face red with anger and frustration. "So that's it," he shouted. "You're giving him everything. After he walked out on us? After he refused to fit in? After all the trouble he caused?" Frederick's voice turned icy, slicing through the tension. "Your family left him behind. I will not. He is my grandson. He is not your pawn. He is not a problem to be managed. He is a person and he deserves to be treated as such." Mark's face twisted in disbelief. "Fine, choose him over me," he snapped, turning to leave. Frederick's reply was quiet but firm. "Gladly." Liam felt a strange surge of clarity. His grandfather had never defended him like this, not to his father, not to anyone. And in that moment, he realized that he had finally been seen, fully and completely. The past months of struggle, hiding, and exhaustion had not gone unnoticed. He mattered. Amelia stepped forward, her voice gentle. "Liam," she said, "you don't have to push everyone away. You don't have to face the world alone. Not anymore." Her words struck him with a force he wasn't prepared for. He had spent so long bracing for abandonment, for disappointment, for rejection. And now someone was telling him he didn't have to fear it. Someone wanted to be with him. Not despite his struggles, but alongside them. He started, his voice trembling. "I'm scared. I don't know if I deserve all of this." "You do," Amelia whispered. "You deserve to be safe. You deserve to be loved. And I want to be here with you, not for the easy days, but for the hard ones too." Liam exhaled shakily, the words settling into his chest like sunlight after a storm. Slowly, carefully, he took her hand in both of his. The warmth was grounding, reassuring, and terrifying all at once. He had never allowed himself to hope for something real, something lasting. And now, with her by his side, it seemed possible. Frederick watched them, a faint smile on his lips. He had fought for this, for Liam's chance at life, love, and family. The night was quiet now, the storm outside having passed, leaving a clear, starry sky. Frederick felt a rare moment of peace, one that had been absent for decades. "Come on," he said finally. "Let's get you settled. There's food, a bed, and more waiting than you could have imagined. But first," he looked at Amelia, eyes softening. "You're welcome here too, if you want." Amelia's eyes widened in surprise, but she smiled. Liam's heart thudded as he felt the unspoken promise in his grandfather's words that together he could build something new, that the past didn't have to define them, that love, care, and family were not weaknesses, they were lifelines. The drive to the estate was quiet but full of unspoken understanding. Liam and Amelia didn't speak much, but the brush of their hands, the occasional glance, and the shared sense of relief said more than words ever could. Liam allowed himself to imagine a life where he didn't have to struggle alone, where the nights weren't spent shivering in a car, and where someone stood beside him, steady and kind. When they arrived, the guest house was illuminated softly, a warm beacon in the night. Frederick led them inside. Liam felt a strange sense of disbelief as he looked around. There was a room waiting for him. Freshly cleaned, a bed with crisp sheets, and even a small desk where he could study without distraction. The life he had imagined, dreamed of in fleeting moments, was finally tangible. Amelia stayed close, her hand brushing his as they walked through the space. "This is amazing," she said softly, her voice filled with awe and genuine happiness. "You don't have to hide any more, Liam. Not from anyone." Liam nodded, his throat tight. "I know. It's hard to believe." "You deserve it," Amelia whispered. "All of it. And I'm not going anywhere." For the first time in months, Liam allowed himself to believe in the future. He allowed himself to hope, to dream, to feel joy without fear of it being ripped away. The struggles, the nights in the car, the exhaustion, they hadn't broken him. They had shaped him. And now, finally, he could live. As they settled into the guest house, Amelia leaned gently against his shoulder. Liam felt a warmth spread through his chest, a gentle reassurance that he had longed for and finally received. Together, they watched the night sky from the porch, the stars twinkling softly above them. Liam realized that while life had tested him, he had not faced it alone this time.